All right, everybody. Hey, it's Greg Harrelson here with my co-host Abe Safa, and of course, as we do on a weekly basis, we give you some additional coaching, not only on the Real Geek system, but sometimes we go outside of the Real Geek system and give you some coaching tips on what's going on in the market, how to build your business. But we also try to stay within the system so we can each further support each other and leverage in the Real Geeks technology to grow our production. I know there's been a little bit of challenges with StreamYard and Facebook. Abe, do you think we're live on
I just pulled it up right now. We are live. So it is.
We are live. Okay, well, good. I know we're live on StreamYard. I didn't know if we were live on Facebook or not. So that's fantastic. So for those of you that are watching, it's one of the only ways, but for those of you that are watching right now on Facebook, if you want to, at any point, if you want to put a question in the comment section, feel free to ask questions. We'll do our best to get to them and help you out in the best we can. So, Abe, I know we're going to talk about follow-up and fail-proof follow-up system. And I think before we get started, I think it's just important to reiterate that at least my experience in coaching tells me that poor lead follow-up is the cause of, I think we lose more money because of poor lead follow-up than about any other area of our business. And some people could say, well, what about poor prospecting or no prospecting? I'm like, well, I still think the lack of follow-up causes more losses than anything else in our business. I mean, there are buyers that will log into your system and say, hey, please give me a call, and they're not called. There are buyers that are just because they're not active in your Real Geeks CRM that we make the assumption that they're dead leads, so we don't reach out to them. There are a lot of agents, and a lot of them. I see your comments on Real Geeks of like, well, I wouldn't want anybody to call me, so therefore I'm not going to call them. These buyers opted in to your CRM. These are opted in buyers. Every single buyer who gave you their telephone number expected you were going to call. It's actually surprising them when they don't get a phone call. If you're the same agent that's sitting here saying, well, I'm not the type of person that likes to make calls, I wouldn't want anybody calling me. I don't think you're applying that statement to the same scenario that you may mean to apply that statement, meaning like you wouldn't maybe want somebody to go look up your information without you giving it to them and then calling you. That's not what we're doing with Real Geeks. These buyers are opting in. Like if they go to Zillow and opt into Zillow, when they hit the button to give their information, it says, have an agent contact me. So they know, okay, if I do this, an agent's going to contact me. And then what we have is, Abe, we have all these agents that all these buyers are getting into the CRM, and the agents aren't calling them. They're using chatbots and all these other things to avoid making the call, saying, well, I'm not that type of agent. Wait, if you put your phone number in, you would expect a call. I mean, we don't need a phone number for any other reason but to call. And the consumer knows that. So again, to me, somebody puts their phone number in and then we email them, we don't call them, so we never get them on the phone. That to me is part of following up. You got a lead, follow up with this lead, get them on the phone. So when I categorize that or explain it in that broader form, that's where the basis of my statement comes from. The biggest loss of income is coming from poor follow-up systems. What are your thoughts on just follow-up in general, and where you want to go with this?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree. I mean, I think the biggest loss for sure is poor follow-up, inconsistent follow-up, because you got to think about it. The leads are already there; they're in your system. So to me, I give that more value in the short term than new lead gen, because the leads are there, right? The whole purpose of doing lead gen is to get leads. So when you have leads and you're not calling them back, you're not following up with them, it's just a complete loss.
Yeah.
I think the stat is less than 2% of sales happen on the first call. So a lot of these agents that even if they make the call and they make that one call, and then all of a sudden, whether it's just lack of the proper systems, lack of a proper schedule, whatever, maybe never call that lead back again. I mean, they're losing a lot of business.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to me, this is one of my favorite things to talk about is follow up, because it's so crucial. It's so crucial to our industry.
Yeah, we were just we had the last 2 weeks we did evening calls, and all we're doing is going in our CRM and calling leads that we already have. No cold calling, nothing, just calling leads. And in last week, I didn't tally up yesterday's, but I think it was Wednesday or Tuesday of last week when we did it, we set 26 appointments as a group. 26 appointments. And what we were doing was just follow up. No cold calling, nothing like that. Just following up 26 appointments. So it pays. So let's talk about setting up the system and whatnot. Why don't you kind of share with us what your thoughts are on that?
Yeah, so let me start with what Real Geeks did a few months back. So they changed the urgencies in the system, which I thought was great. It was something that was really needed. So they changed the urgencies to what's called, one urgency is fire, one is hot, one is warm, and then the last one is long term. So they pretty much gave you the process to be able to segment your database from hottest to coldest. You and I always talk about A, B, C, D as far as priority.
Yeah.
With A being the closest to the bottom of the funnel, and then working your way down. So Real Geeks came out with the urgencies to make it super easy for you. You have to use them. Okay, in my opinion. So this whole conversation is about a fail-proof follow-up system. So if you want a fail-proof follow-up system, it's going to come down to setting the right protocols and using what the system has, the capabilities the system has for you. So first and foremost is you have to, when you make a call, you have to record it, right? So you have to mention whether you spoke with the lead or not. Otherwise, this whole thing falls apart. So
you're talking about make note of it. Is that what you mean by recording?
Yeah.
Right?
So as an activity,
yes.
Right? So you make a call, you talk to somebody, you have to, because we're gonna walk you through a process, and if you miss any one of these steps, it's going to cause the system to fall apart. They're not difficult steps; they're very, very simple steps. Okay, but you have to do them. And then once you do them, the system will be fail-proof for them. So definitely use the activity feature when you do talk to somebody. Just make a note that you logged the call. Would be the first thing. Second thing is you have to make a determination of what each one of these urgencies means to you. So what is a hot lead? What would you consider a fire lead? Like for me, Greg, it's anyone that's going to be buying or selling within the next 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So depending on the agent and how busy they are and how big their database is, they can determine what that means. Right. I'm not sure. What do you consider an A lead for you? I know your window's probably a little bit smaller than mine. What would you consider a hot lead?
A hot lead for me is somebody that can make a decision the first time I talk to them.
Okay.
So mine is like immediate. Now that means they don't all make a decision.
Right.
Of course. That be clear on this, or I want the audience to be clear on this. But like a hot lead for me is somebody that is like they're ready. Especially I'm working a lot of the listings, not the buyers. It's like somebody that I'm going to be doing a listing presentation with, whether it's over the phone or in person. It's got to be somebody that I'm doing a presentation and they're going to make a decision. That's how I define a hot lead. If it's somebody that's thinking about it like in 2 to 3 weeks, that's not a hot lead for me. Yeah, but I will follow up with that person until they become a hot lead. Right. It's just not defined as a hot lead for me.
Yeah. So I mean, you want someone that's going to make a decision on the spot, basically.
Yes.
For that, okay. At any given moment, any call that they're ready to move.
Yes.
All right. So you out there have to make a decision. Okay, what is a hot lead for you? What is a fire lead for you? Yeah. So you heard Greg's example. Mine example is a little bit further out. Mine, I give them 30 days. If they're willing to do something in the next 30 days, I'll use a fire urgency for them. The second thing would be a hot lead. Yeah. Right. This one was fire. The next one's a hot. For me, it's anyone that's doing something in the next 90 days. 31 to 90 days, I tag them with an urgency, or I'll use an urgency that's hot. The third one's going to be anybody that's warm. right? So again, my criteria is going to be from 90 days to a year. Anybody that's doing business during that window is what I would consider a warm urgency. And then everybody else in my database will get the long-term urgency, right? So that would be my protocol on how to use urgencies for my database. Again, you come up with your own, you determine, but whatever it is, you have to be consistent with that urgency. And I think it starts there. Now, once you start doing that, we're going to talk about creating some advanced search filters at that point. All right. So the whole point of having consistent follow up, the whole idea behind it is it's got to be consistent, it's got to be repeatable, and it's got to be the same exact way every single time. You can't alter. You can't one day do this and another day do that. And when it comes to advanced search filters, what you need to do, and I don't know if they want to. Maybe I should share my screen and show this picture. You think, Greg, or do you think we can just go over it?
I think we can go over it.
Okay. All right. So the first advanced search filter is going to be, what you want to do is you go in and then you create lead urgency equals fire. Okay. And then you save that. Then you call it fire. Okay. This is something that you can check every single day.
That would be the name of the advanced search filter.
Yes.
So yeah, so you would create an advanced search filter, you would name it fire, and you would basically, it was any lead that is labeled or tagged fire would show up in that advanced search filter. And you would do the same thing for each one of your urgencies, like you would do hot, warm, and long term. So you should, that should be a minimum of, you should have a minimum of those 4 advanced search filters on your dashboard at all times. So, now I would also add one more, and that would be create an advanced search folder for all the people that are not fire, hot, warm, or long term. So then you'll know how many people that are in your database that have no labeling whatsoever. Because there's going to be some people that they've been in there for a while, and the agent has not used these as labels and as urgencies. And so I would want to also know everybody that has no urgency tagged to it, have that as an advanced search filter. So then I could prospect those in different ways, whether it be workflow, calls, whatever you want to do. And you want, because the goal would be to eliminate as many of those as you can and move them into one of your other 4 categories. That'd be the goal there.
Yeah. At some point, you don't want to have anybody in your system that doesn't have an urgency.
That's correct.
Now, here's what's cool about what else you can do with these advanced search filters. So, like, for example, the fire one is pretty self-explanatory. Anybody that's a fire, you click on it, they all show up. Now, if you're using the activity like we talked about, where you actually log a call every time you talk to somebody, the system can filter out and tell you exactly who to call every single day. So when you create a hot advanced search filter for the hot urgencies, I would also add a second search criteria to that same filter. So it'll be lead urgency type is hot. And then what you're going to do is you're going to put last communication is older than 6 days. Okay, so then once you do those 2 criteria for that one advanced search filter, then you can save it as hot. Now, what that tells you is, okay, if I'm going in and clicking that button every single day, which you're supposed to, you want to click all 4 or 5 of these buttons every single day. When I click that hot button, it's going to filter out someone that I've already spoken to a couple of days ago, right? So anybody that's a hot lead, you should be talking to once a week.
Yeah, and this, hence why you started this whole conversation, that you have to record the activity.
Right.
Because if you don't record the activity, then you're going to have people pop up that you talked to 3 days ago that are going to pop up in the advanced search filter, telling you that you need to reach out to them because you haven't reached out to them in the last 6 days, but you actually already did reach out to them within 6 days. So that's the important. This thing all has to work together. This is how it works. So
absolutely,
it's an excellent system.
Oh yeah, otherwise it gets very confusing, because if you click on hot and then all of a sudden you've got 50 people and half of them you spoke to already a few days ago, the whole system falls apart. But if you're using the activity, logging the calls, you click on that filter, it filters out everybody you haven't spoken to in a week, and then that day you know exactly who to call.
Yeah.
Okay, so urgency fire, There are people you're going to be talking to every single day. Someone that's hot, you need to talk to once a week. Okay. And then warm is going to be people that you should probably talk to once a month. So on that one, the same way you created the hot advanced search filter, now what you want to do is you want to create a new advanced search filter, use urgency as warm, and then last activity older than 29 days. So now when you start putting this all together, it makes it super easy. You come in every single morning and you go through the progression. Click on the fire filter. So whoever's there, you call. There's no thinking about it. There's no question whether you spoke to them a couple of days ago or not. You call them. Once you're done with that list, you click on hot. And again, because the system is filtering out the ones you spoke to in the last 6 days, you call everybody on that list. You do the same exact thing with warm. And then finally, the fourth advanced search filter you want to use is called long-term. So the criteria you want to use for that is urgency is long-term. And then last communication date is older than 89 days. So the purpose of that is there is nobody in your database that should go past 90 days without some sort of communication from you.
Mm-hmm.
So when you click on that, that's also going to filter out everybody you've spoken to within the last 89 days. It leaves them out. You call everybody else that's on that list. So simple process. You do it every single morning, go through that progression, and then there's nothing that'll fall through the cracks at that point if you follow this progression every single day.
Yeah. Something that's come to my mind just to share is like an urgency fire and urgency hot. My recommendation is, even though like the tendency for a real estate agent, I don't know if I should call them. Maybe I'll just email, maybe I'll just text them. If it's urgency fire, urgency hot, I think you should call them. If it's urgency warm, I still think you should call, but you could use a blend of calling and workflows. If it's urgency long-term, it's okay to use a workflow to be communicating with them. And so you got Abe shared your kind of like your physical activity. You call all these people, you make a note in your system, you have these advanced search filters up with the criteria that he just gave you. And then now if you want to take it and be a little bit more advanced with Real Geeks, is then you go create a workflow. And you could create a workflow, and the name of your workflow is urgency is long-term. And then go create a workflow that has a few texts and a few emails in it to these opted in people, and push off that workflow. And then all of a sudden you'll see them responding, engaging with you. And then you'll then call them, you'll make the note, and then those people will no longer be in long-term because you may have changed their urgency. They may be in warm now. They may be in hot now. And it's doing this on a daily basis that'll blow up your business. And Abe, I tell you, there was some, I don't know, for those of you that saw a post I put on there and explained what Abe and I do with Real Geeks Mastery. For people that want coaching on a much deeper level of Real Geeks that we can't cover on this particular call, then we have a program called Real Geeks Mastery. For those of you who haven't heard of it, check it out. But I posted something in explaining what Real Geeks Mastery was over the weekend, and some guy was like, oh my gosh, if you guys are still using Real Geeks, talking to everybody in Real Geeks, you guys are, basically just slamming everybody. Obviously, he was an old Real Geeks user that didn't have any success. By the way, I typed on his name and I cannot find where he's even still a real estate agent. If he is, he surely doesn't even disclose anything about real estate in his profile anymore. But it was just so negative. And I'm thinking, this guy probably, had a Real Geeks website, didn't take time to set up advanced search filters, didn't even probably take time to know what an advanced search filter was, probably never took time to put notes after he talked to people. He probably wouldn't even know how to set up a workflow. And I got to thinking, I said, there's a lot of people that haven't taken this time to set up advanced search filters and workflows. But when you look at the people like Abe and I, and there's hundreds and thousands of people that are having success with Real Geeks, we've taken the time to kind of take what Abe just shared today and implement it. It's really not hard. If you take the time and implement this, your return on your investment for this technology will be one of the greater returns that you've made on any investment that you have in real estate. As a matter of fact, I would say it'll even be a better return than buying real estate. My investment in Real Geeks, which Real Geeks, by the way, I call my virtual real estate. It's real estate to me. It's an asset. It's a website that it's like a website, which to me is like real estate, but it's real estate in the virtual world. The Real Geeks website has given me a better return than any piece of real estate I've ever purchased in my life. And that's out there for all of us, but we have to take what Abe just shared and execute on it. If you execute on that, your returns for the next year are going to be extraordinary. They really will. So that's a great explanation, Abe. I appreciate you sharing that information. That was perfectly said.
Yeah, you said something that was really important. I want to make sure everybody got that. These urgencies are not etched in stone.
Yeah.
Every time you talk to a lead, you should be making a new determination of what urgency they should be.
Yes.
So that means someone that's long-term you were talking to, now all of a sudden they've been in your database for 3 years, and now all of a sudden they're ready to buy. You can't leave them on long-term. You got to switch the urgency to a fire or to a hot, right? So don't get caught up. And the vice versa is true. Like if you got someone in fire and then you've talked to them 6 times already and they just don't feel like they're going to do anything, it's just keep kicking the can down the road. Don't take up time and have them in a fire urgency and you call them every single day. Move them back to something else. Move them back to a warm or a hot. You want to make sure you keep your best of the best in that fire. So move people around based on how their motivation is changing.
Yeah, there you go. All right, man. Well, great information for those of you that are listening. Please, if you have any questions in the future, put them in the comment section. We'd be happy to answer. Direct message us if you would like some information on Real Geeks Mastery and want to get your system set up for 2023. We are here to help. Abe, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you all for watching. See you guys.
Take care.